Hey, what's going on, everybody? Bauer Brown here. Welcome back to the channel, guys. As you can see, I am still on the tutorial series map. Alrighty, because we're going to start learning some new things today. You can see up there my home farm up in the corner. I got 3 fields painted in there now, right? So that's a little bit different. Because that's actually what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be learning how to get some fields painted in here. Now, hopefully your map is in much better condition than mine is right now. Mine's looking a little bit blank because, you know, I'm just a big giant slacker, and that's what's going on right now. All right. Actually, I've got a lot of other things going on right now, other maps even. So, I've only been doing tutorial stuff with this map. But anyhow, I was kind of going back and forth about, you know, what I wanted the next video to be, what we were going to learn. Did I want to put down like our selling points? When I thought about it, you know, all of our selling points and our production points and purchase points and stuff like that, they're nothing but placeables. Okay. And we've already done placeables as far as, you know, a video goes, a tutorial. So we really don't need to go over that again. So hopefully you guys took the initiative. You know, you went through there, you looked up some different selling points and stuff like that, and you got those distributed around your map. Everything's starting to look good. We also went over, you know, prefabs, importing, exporting. So hopefully you got, you know, a bunch of items in there, and you started placing those down, maybe some street signs and some lights and bushes and trees and that sort of thing. And anyhow, so if you got all that done, my next logical step for me be one, to do those things that I just mentioned, and then also start laying in some fields. Right. So now I won't necessarily get my fields laid in until I have my buildings down, my selling points and stuff like that. This way, if I need to work around anything, you know, I don't have to put my buildings in around my fields. I put my fields in around my buildings. Did you get what I mean? Right? Did you get what I'm saying? Alrighty. So now you can see I have 3 fields here. I already have them painted in. It's going to speed up the process a little bit. You don't have to watch me sit here and paint. And what I did here is we just went up to the texture paint mode. I selected just plain old dirt, and I painted in my fields, right? I didn't do anything with the foliage layer paint mode or info layer paint mode, nothing like that, nothing fancy, just painted them in with dirt. Technically, you don't even really need to do that, but we do need some sort of visual guide. Because the way I'm going to be teaching you how to do these fields today, we're going to need that. And then the second reason for painting those in is, one, because it looks good. And when you're playing the game, you know, like say you just got done harvesting a field or something like that, and you got it down to just a bare soil condition, you actually want to see some kind of dirt there, because that's what's in fields, right? Dirt. At least most fields I'm acquainted with are filled with dirt. Or at least once you get down to the bare ground state. Anyhow, alrighty. So you see we got these fields here. All right, like I say, get them painted in. Take a few minutes. Start painting in your fields. Now, when you paint these in, try to keep straight edges like I have. Don't get all crazy with your design and all curvy and wavy and zigzaggy and any of those other, you know, adjectives that describe a field that's not straight. Try to keep your lines straight or straight-ish, right? So square field, stuff like that. It's going to make things a lot easier for what I'm about to show you, and it's going to make a lot more sense in just a couple of minutes. Alrighty. All right, so go ahead and get those painted in. Also pay attention that, you know, when you're doing everything from a bird's eye view and you paint them in, it looks little to you, but when you get down to ground level, you're like, holy hell, this thing is massive. All right. And you don't necessarily, I mean, maybe you do, maybe you want really big fields. What I like to do is for my starting farm, when you know, you're just starting out in the game, you're getting your feet wet, you know, it's a game. You're trying to work up to bigger and better things. So I start them off with small fields, you know, so they can get some practice in, start making a little bit of money, and they can work up to bigger things. Okay. So I always start out with relatively smaller fields. Okay. All right. So now if you remember back to our video where we went over making, you know, starting out with our blank map. We just got started making it. We went through the process of deleting bunches and bunches of things that we didn't want. And I made the recommendation to you to save certain items. Okay. And one of the items that I asked you to save is up here in your gameplay, your gameplay transform group was fields. I said it was probably a good idea to save your fields. All right. Now, if for some reason you decided to be a rebel and said, screw you, Bauer, I am not saving those fields, well, then you are just out of luck right now, right? Because it's just the way the ball bounces, buddy. All right, you're definitely not. Just go back into your base game map. Whether it was the Alpine or US, you get what I mean. Go in there, drill through your transform groups until you find fields. Highlight the fields transform group, export it to a folder, and then re-import it into this map. Okay, there is also a way to do this all from scratch where you can just create your own transform group. And if you look down here in my scene graph, I have my attributes panel open. You can see that field util.onCreate. You just basically have to attach a script to it through attributes, and it's really not that hard. I'm not going to get into that part of it now. For now, I just recommend you import it from another map. Okay, I will do a separate video on this somewhere down the road, but for the sake of speeding up this tutorial, this video anyhow, we're not going to do that today, but it's not hard, so just keep that in mind. Not hard at all. Alrighty, so in gameplay I have you can see I have my fields folder there. All right, I'm gonna delete that or get rid of it anyhow, and then I have a field 01. All right, and because what I did is in that video I'd asked you only needed to save one field. Okay, you didn't need all 82 of them or 83 of them that were in there, so you should have fields and you should have one field. All right, so go up to fields there, highlight that, go up to scripts, down the map, and at the bottom of that list there, click on toggle render field areas, and you should have this, kind of like this diamond looking thing there, right? So you can see how it kind of looks a little crazy with all these like highlighted areas and things looking a little weird. Those are all your different layers. I'll call them layers, or basically that's what it is. It's a layer. That you're moving these things around, and you're creating these things and kind of bending them and warping them and moving them around to cover every square inch of your field. Very important that every square inch of your field be covered. All right, so what you're seeing here, if you're seeing this diamond thing, this is field number 1 on the US map. All right, so you remember when we did some testing on previous videos where I had this is what it looked like. The field showed up on my map. Okay, well, this is the actual field. So I'm going to open up field number 1. All right, and you can see I have 2 transform groups there for field dimensions and field map indicator. Field dimensions is what we're going to be working with to actually create this field. All right, so I have a bunch of corners in there. I'm going to delete every corner but number 1. We're going to start with number 1. Okay, so go ahead and delete that. Highlight number 1. And you can actually open that up if you want to as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this into place. I'm just going to start in this upper corner here. I'm going to get that lined up. All right. Now, a good trick for you guys is when you look at these things, you need to be looking directly from the top down. All right. If you look at an angle, you'll be able to kind of see under a little bit. Things aren't going to look exactly lined up, and it does make a difference. All right. So a way to get yourself lined up so you know you're looking top down. If you look at my gizmo right here, you can see this green line and then this white line, the blue line, that nothing really matches up, right? They're all kind of skewed a little bit. All right, so if I start actually tilting my camera, watch my green line there. Okay, see how I'm kind of getting closer, 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 tilt, tilt, tilt. All right, now it looks like one uniform line. Okay, everything looks like it's lined up as one perfect circle. That's letting me know, well, maybe not. There we go. That's perfect right there. So now that's letting me know that I'm at a perfect top-down view, okay? So I'm not looking at any sort of angle or anything like that. And I can go ahead and I can line this up with the field that we painted in. This is why painting in the field, one of the reasons why it was important, because we need that visual guide, okay? So once you have that started, you have it lined up with one of the corners, go down there to corner 01_2, and I'm going to start dragging that down. Okay, now you can see everything sort of like just going, like bending out of shape and getting all crazy. Don't worry about that. The more you work with this, the easier it gets and the more it's going to make sense. But in the beginning, it's going to seem a little goofy and crazy, but just trust me, everything will work out. Now I'm going to go down to 03, and I'm going to pull that down to the bottom. You can see how the top sort of falls in line with it, right? Follows right behind it. All right, no biggie. There we go. Got that lined up. And then staying on 3, I'm going to pull that over to the right. Okay, so come on. This mouse is just driving me nuts. Bought a new one. It'll be here Saturday. So after Saturday, this mouse is going to meet its maker. And by that, I don't mean some company in Taiwan or China. It's going to die a more horrible death than that. So anyhow, all right. So we have that all situated there, right? So we have this one square lined up there, right? And we have this triangle. Well, I have this triangle looking piece here that I need to fill in, okay? And this is why I said to keep your fields like straight or straight-ish, because it's going to make this part much, much easier for you. All right. Now, like I said, there is 2 different ways of doing these fields. One is this way. Now, the reason I'm teaching you this way, and this is the harder way, by the way, because this is the method that Giants themselves uses, right? This is the default method of creating fields. All right. So I want to teach you that way first because, you know, you don't have to install anything. You don't have to create any info layers. There's no scripts, no nothing else. You can just fire up Giants Editor and start creating fields, you know, right out of the box. No problems, nothing else, nothing extra is needed. Okay. So that's why I'm teaching you this way, because it's been the default standard way to do it for a long, long time. But there is another way. Now, Giants, for everything else that they do, they incorporate info layers and bitmaps, right? And it's just an easy way to do things. You know, when we start getting into some of our info layers, that's basically what's going on there. Well, you can actually create fields the same exact way, you know, through an info layer and just drawing them in. And man, and that's how these guys get these really, really crazy complex field shapes. Trust me, though, they're not sitting here making these little boxes trying to get everything lined up perfect. That is not happening. No, sir. But like I said, for the sake of learning, we are going to learn this way first. And if you're interested in learning, you know, the info layer method, you know, with the bitmap, I will have a video coming out somewhere down the road that's going to, you know, cover that entire process. And then you can definitely, you know, go through, watch that video, figure out what you're doing, and then incorporate that into your future map builds. Okay. But for now, let's all start, you know, learning this, or keep learning this. Now with these corners here, since I already have this one done, this square, I need to create another square. So I'm going to go up to the transform group here for that corner 01, and I'm just going to duplicate it. Okay, and then I am going to rename this one to corner 02. Now, just something to note is in previous versions of Giants Editor 8, FS19, we had to go through and we had to rename all of these. It had to be corner 01, corner 02, corner 03. That is no longer necessary. They're definitely getting better with the editors. It's getting a little smarter. It's doing some of that legwork for you. So just keep it in mind that you don't actually have to rename these. I still recommend that you do, just for organization purposes, and, you know, just do it. Okay. Just do it, but know that you don't have to. We got corner 02 highlighted right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that over. Okay. Come on, highlight already. Oh, you're killing me. All right, so I'm going to drag that over right to about there. And then I'm going to go down to corner 03, and I'm going to start dragging this whole thing up like so. Actually, that looks pretty darn good. All right, so believe it or not, my field right now, that is actually done. It's a little out of shape right there, so I'm going to have to fix that. Like I said, I've been fighting with this mouse, so I kind of don't really even want to touch it, but it is what it is. All right, so that looks pretty decent. Okay. All righty. Now, one other thing is you can see that my field here, my blocks look, you know, my layers here, they look a tannish color, a whitish tannish. I don't know what you want to call that. This method of doing the fields, I actually call the blue square method. All right, so back in Giants Editor 8, FS19, they were all blue squares. Even in the beginning of Giants Editor 9 and FS22, they were still blue squares. Now, somewhere along the line, I changed something with what I was doing through the editor and settings and stuff like that. And I started getting these, my squares are all different colors now. So you may be seeing different colors. Yours might be red. It might be green. It could be blue. All of your squares could be blue. If they are, don't panic. It's normal. All right. But you may be seeing other colors as well. One of these days, I'm going to have to compare notes with somebody. And as a matter of fact, why don't you guys let me know, what are you getting? Are you getting all blue squares, or are you getting different colors like I'm getting here? Because something definitely changed along the way. I'm thinking it was just like some kind of update with Giants Editor, and they're just getting a little fancier now. But maybe not. Maybe it's a change that I made. So you might be seeing something a little bit different than what I am. Alrighty, so field number 1 is just about done. I got everything, I got all the overlays put on there. And the last thing I need to do is go down there to field map indicator. That is the actual field number. When you look at the PDA, you open up your map in game, and you look at the fields, there's a field number, and that is the field number. So just hit Control B, get yourself into interactive placement mode, and put that somewhere right over the middle of the field where it would make sense to have a field number. Okay, so that's it. Field number 1 is done. Alrighty. So now we can start collapsing these. Okay, collapse field number 1. And we're going to start our second field, and we're just going to start by duplicating field number 1. Okay, and then we're going to rename that. You can see how it gave it a different color, pretty shade of purple. All right. All right, field number 2. So we'll open that up. Now, I'm not going to need all the corners that I had before, because this is just one big square. So I'm going to go over to that corner 02. I'm going to delete that because I don't need it. All right, highlight corner 01, and I'm just going to drag that down. Wow, that was actually much easier than I thought it was going to be. If it would ever line up, just I'm telling you, I don't know what happened. This mouse one day decided it almost feels overly sensitive. Like, it just takes these giant leaps, and I slowed the mouse down. Trust me, I slowed it down. I speeded it up. I did everything. It's touchy. I don't know why it's so damn touchy. Like I said, slowing it down doesn't seem like, look at, I can speed that up. No, that's definitely fast. All right, that's my slowest setting. Let's see how that works. Not going to do a darn thing. I know it's not. All right, so I'm going to open up corner 01 just so I can grab some of these other corners. I'm going to drag up 02, get things a little out of shape there. Same thing with 03, bring that up so it makes a nice square. And easy as that, I just did field number 2. Take my map indicator, Control B, put that somewhere in the middle where it's going to look pretty. And voila, one more field to go, and this one should be equally as easy. Let's go up to field number 2, Control D to duplicate. Alrighty, double click, name that field number 3. Voila, good to go. Open that up, highlight corner 01. I'm going to pull this over. Ooh, it's a green color. And we're going to pull that up. Alrighty, go to 3. Oop, wrong one. Wrong one. Go to field 3. Or corner 3, I'm sorry. Drag that in a little bit. And then drag it down. Hey, wait a minute. Didn't want to do that. I wanted to go to 2. Go to 2 before you start dragging things down. Actually, I think you're going to need to drag down both of them. Maybe. And like I said, the more you work with these and you start, pulling corners here and there, it'll make more sense and it'll get a lot easier as you go. But the important thing to remember is you can see how I had to use 2 different, overlays here. You have to have every square inch of your fields covered. Okay. So when you start getting into curves and stuff like that, you're just going to have to use much smaller overlays, right? And you're going to have to piece it in the best that you can and try to follow that curve the best that you can by reshaping your squares, right? If you can, if you could get away with using, bigger, like here, like a longer stretch, fine. But if it's a curve, if you do them really small, you're able to hug that curve. You're able to follow that curve, right? You're just going to have to play around with it to get the hang of that. But this is all we're doing for now for our field. Just, keeping them somewhat squarish. Okay, back to map indicator, and then we are going to hit Control B, get that right in the middle there. And there we go. So now we have 3 complete fields, right? So there's nothing else that needs to get done right now. There's no magic button that we're going to write all this. My magic button is save. That's what my magic button is. And it's very important to do that often. Save often, and keep a backup. Trust me, you don't want to lose 6 months worth of work, 9 months worth of work. You don't want to do it. I've done it. And it's not a pretty sight to see a grown man cry. Okay, it's just not. So don't do it, damn it. Alrighty, so we got everything saved, and literally this is it. Now, you can't really test in game at this point, because if you were to do that right now, it would throw an error because we haven't done our farmlands yet, right? And I'm not going to do that now. That's going to be another video, maybe your next one. Okay, so for now, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to either keep going with your fields or hang on until the next video, and we'll show you how to do farmlands. Alrighty, so that literally is it for fields. That's how you create your fields, the default Giants way. Okay, so now that we have that done, you can let's try open a window, go to console. If you're curious to see, you know, how big your fields are, you can go up to scripts, go down to map again, and you can go, well, you have to have fields highlighted. Make sure that's highlighted. Go to scripts, map, and then get field sizes. Okay, and that'll tell you how big your fields are. So field 1, now these are in hectares, I guess is the way you would say it. And so field 1, number 1 is 0.777, and then, you know, write down the list. Field 2, field 3. So you can see that it did recognize all 3 of our fields, and it gave you the acreage on all of them. If you want to know the actual acres, you can just go over to Google and you can do the conversion from hectares to acres. Okay. But that lets you know how big they are. And like I said, also keep in mind, I think I mentioned this, but just in case I didn't, you know, make sure that when you're doing these, you know, when working from a bird's eye view, you know, things look a lot smaller from a bird's eye view than what they actually are when you get down to ground level. So try to keep them on the smaller side, right? Because your fields can get really ginormous really fast. And on a smaller 2 kilometer map like we have here, that makes a difference. It definitely does. Alrighty, so like I said, the field creation itself is done. Nothing else that we need to do there. If our farmlands was done and we were to test this in game, it would show up just fine. But we can't do that right now. But we're going to cover one more thing. So let me close my console. You want to go back up to, and I'll get rid of these boxes again to get rid of your not seeing your fields there. Go back up to scripts, map, and you're just going to go in the opposite order, go to toggle render field areas, and that'll turn them off. Poof, there we go. Alrighty, now if you remember back in, let's see, which video was that? It was one of these for the foliage paint mode, okay? If for some reason on your, and this just applies to your starting farm, okay? It applies to any land that either you own at the start of the game, like your default player farm. Okay, you can start that out with, you know, like already having a crop in that field, you know, wheat, or you can change the field state, you know, how it's fertilized and stuff like that. All right, so generally it's done on the starting farm, or if you remember, you can do it for an area that you don't necessarily need to own, but it's not a field either. You know, like if you remember on the Giants, on the map, the US map, the base game map, you know, they had that corn maze. That wasn't a field. Nobody could really own that. You know, it wasn't like any kind of owned property. Then you can do something like that where you can, you know, you can put in corn or wheat or whatever. But any other fields that you do not own at the start of the game, no matter what you put into those fields, whatever you color in there, the game engine is going to decide what goes in those fields, right? So your starting farm or any other property that you own right off the bat is the only ones that you're really going to be able to change, and those changes are going to stay there when you start the game. All right, so let's go up to foliage layer paint mode. Scroll down a little bit. We're going to go down to terrain detail, and here we can pick our ground layer type, right? So we got stubble tillage, cultivated. Here's one that says harvest ready. We'll pick that. Now the ground angle, I can pick, say 90 degrees. 90 degrees sounds good. I give it a fertilizer type. Let's try straw chopper. Why not? Let's be different. And I'm going to change my brush over to square, zoom in a little bit, and I can start painting in this new ground type. Pretty cool, right? So I get a little bit closer. There we go. Okay, and then you just want to go through and you want to, now it pays to be a little bit closer to your field when you do this, because you can see as you get further out, now it still works, but you can see how things kind of, it's a little bit different when you're further out. It's a lot easier to keep things nice and neat and straight if you're right up there closer to it. Okay. And you can also, right click to delete, just like that. All right. So if you make a mistake, no big deal. You can go ahead and you can delete it, via right click. All right. And this is, like I said, this right now, as long as you own this property, when you start the game, this field will show up in this state. So now if you were to waste your time, and it would be a waste of time, if you were to go through to any of your other fields, like say you had 100 fields and you did every field this way, oh, that would be a tragedy, because the only ones that would show up is the starting player's farm or any land that you owned right off the bat. Okay, so once you got something like this done, you can see you can color it in, get everything looking really nice. Okay, like so. I hate having these guys just sitting here waiting for me to just color something in. It's a lot easier. A lot of times too, what I'll do is I'll work with these much bigger squares, and it makes things so much easier. You can cover a lot more ground at one time. Now, I had, when I first started in FS, I'm not sure if it was 17, because I didn't really get into modding until 19. At one point when I first started, I was under the impression that this was the way you created your fields. And I went through to God knows how many fields, and I colored each and every one of them in this way. And you can imagine my surprise when I started up the game and none of those things stayed. Not only that, but then I was trying to figure out, all right, do I want corn in this field? I want cotton in this field, soybeans in this field. I was trying to figure all that stuff out, and it was just a giant waste of time. I didn't realize that the game engine picks that stuff for you. It was just a mess. I was a rookie. Damn rookie. Still wet behind the ears. All right, so you can see I didn't cover enough of my field there. So I'm just going to go back and kind of get that in there. Now there is a way, and I can show you how to do this in another video. There's a way that when you're working on your map, if it's easier for you to visualize what everything's going to look like, with a finished field state and maybe with a crop in that field, there is a way to do it without having to go through and coloring in every single thing. There's a much easier way to do it, and I'll show you how to do that in another video. Okay. All right. So once we got our field state done, we can go back over to terrain detail and we can pick what we want in there. In this instance, I'm going to pick wheat, and then we're going to go with harvest ready again. And then that's it. We can just color in our wheat like so. Whoa. Actually, let me undo that, because an easy way to do this one again is limit the texture. Now I believe this will still work. Yes, it will still work. See how much easier that limit to texture makes things? And this is why, and this is another reason it was important to have that dirt field underneath here. Right. So now I'm not going through here and trying to, as a matter of fact, did terrain have that limit to texture and I wasn't paying attention? Ah, it did. Oh, Bower, you giant dummy. See? Ay, 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 ay. All right, even I make mistakes. So this one, I can just show you again how easy it is. If we can go, this one we can turn into a seed bed. We'll pick a different angle and we'll just choose fertilizer, limit the dirt. And there we go. Wow, that was a lot easier. Look at that. Boy, man, that is dark, huh? And that one you can just leave as a regular seed bed if you want. Leave it just like that. And then, you know, the player can do something else with it if he wants. And we can go through and we can pick one more, maybe how about ridge, maybe, I don't know. Let's just try something different. Give it a different angle. And we'll go with liquid manure this time. Yeah, it's another dark one. So now you see the importance of having your field in there. Okay, so gave it a ridge on a really weird angle too. All right, and then if you don't like that angle, you can always go back and change that to like a 90 degree or just leave it blank. Now I don't like that crossway right there, so maybe we'll give it 90 degrees. I like to have it run long way like that. Or you can get fancy and just, you know, make designs in it if you want to. Not sure I recommend it, but you could do it. Oh, I can't believe I didn't see it. I didn't catch that whole limit to texture. Alrighty. Or what you can do with another one of these is kind of do it how they had it on the player farm, where you might want to give it what does direct zone look like? You know, something where they may have to come back and cultivate it, you know, run a cultivator over it. Stubble tillage might be one of your better bets. Yeah, so maybe something like stubble tillage. And in this way, the player can come through and cultivate the field if he wants to and get that prepared. Now, I know on the base game, they only had these different field states because, you know, you had that option of learning, you know, the picking that tutorial type thing as you started out. And it gave you the option to see what it was like to harvest something, to cultivate a field, and then also plant a field, right? But that is the way that it's done. So don't be a dummy like me and forget that you have that limit to texture there. Because you can see how much faster that made. Literally everything went way faster. Way faster. One more time. Way faster. All right. So that's it. There's nothing more to it than that. So like I said, at this point, you can't really test in game because the farmlands isn't done. We'll do that in one of the next videos. Once the farmland is done, you know, and we put down like this is the default player farm, you know, farm number 1, then you can test that in game, and this wheat and the field states will show up just like how we have them here, and everything will look just great. Alrighty, so what do you think? There really wasn't that bad, right? There wasn't that much to it, even though we did fields the default Giants way, the hard way. It still really wasn't that bad. Okay. So be on the lookout, you know, down the road somewhere for the next video that's going to show you how to use the info layer and a bitmap, because that's going to make your life way easier. And then you're going to look like a real pro when you start using that stuff, because you're going to make some crazy fields. And it's as easy as just drawing them in. Alrighty. So that is it. If you're at the point where you have more of your placeables down and things are looking a lot more plentiful than my map is, then you can start putting your fields in, right? Because we're definitely making progress now. Alrighty. And if you haven't done that, then what are you waiting for? Get it done. Alrighty. So I'm going to leave it there, and, you know, I'm going to put this out there, which I never really do. But if you guys find these videos helpful in any way, shape, or form, you know, it helps me out if you would subscribe, and we can keep making content and moving forward. Okay. So with that being said, I am Bower Brown, and I will see you on the next one.